Today we're going to solve Mr. Jones and the Bagels. The directions say solve these story problems, show your thinking. So just so you know, they're already asking for 2 steps. Let's go ahead and begin with question 1. Mr. Jones needs to buy 14 dozen bagels for a big party. They're giving us some important information. It's what he needs to purchase. How many bagels does he need to buy? Well, I don't remember how many are in a dozen. Fortunately, the question tells me. Remember that a dozen is 12. So I'm going to start with what I know. He needs to purchase 14 dozen. The question told me there was 12 in each dozen, and now my goal is to find out how many total bagels. I don't know my 14s, but I do know my 10s. So I'm going to go ahead and work with what I do know. And I know that 1 times 12 is going to give me 12. And it wasn't a 1, it was a 10, so I'm going to place the 0 over here. To make this 14, I need to do another 4 groups of 12. That's going to give me 48. And then I'm going to just put it all back together. 0 plus 8 is 8, 2 plus 4 is 6, and bring down the 1. Because this factor didn't change, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it down. And then I'm going to add these back up to make sure I got to 14. So 10 plus 4 is 14. This matches, so I'm good to go. So again, it was 14 dozen bagels with 12 bagels in each dozen. Gives me a total of 168 bagels.
All right, so question number 2. Mr. Jones goes to the bagel shop. They have only 10 dozen left, so he buys them all. How many bagels does he buy at the bagel shop? Well, I know from Mrs. Q's question number 1 that he needed 168 bagels. When he goes to the bagel shop to actually purchase them, though, he's not able to buy all 14. He can only buy 10 dozen bagels. So he needs 10 dozen bagels times the 12 bagels that are in each dozen, and that'll give me a total of 12 times 1 is 12. Place the 0, because it's actually 10 times 1. He picks up 120 bagels. If I was paying attention, I would notice that this is exactly the same break-apart strategy that Miss Q used to solve the problem originally. So I've already done the work. I didn't have to do it again. Since we broke the 14 dozen bagels he needs apart by 10 and 4, he purchases 120 bagels at the bagel shop.
Now when we go to question number 3, it goes into more detail. Mr. Jones goes to the supermarket to buy the rest of the bagels. How many more bagels does Mr. Jones need to buy, and how do you know? Well, thank God I did my good work on question number 1, because we found out he needed to buy 14. We already know he purchased 10. Well, that's originally how I broke it apart. So I know he needs to buy 4 more dozen bagels. So again, 4 dozens with 12 in each dozen is 48. But there is another way to solve it. We also knew that he needed 168 total bagels, and we know that at the bagel shop he purchased the 120 that Mr. Lashman figured out. So let's see what's left. 8 minus 0 is 8. 6 minus 2 is 4. The 48 bagels that he's missing, which absolutely matches the original break apart.
Our last question says, what if the bagel shop only had 7 dozen bagels left? How would Mr. Jones have to buy, or how many bagels would Mr. Jones have to buy at the supermarket? Well, I know that he needs 14 dozen bagels. There's 12 in each dozen. That doesn't change. So I know we need a total of 168 bagels. However, when he gets to the bagel shop, there's only 7 dozen bagels left. 7 times 12. 7 times 12 is something I should be fluent in by the time I leave 4th grade. However, since we're still just in the beginning, I'm going to use the break-apart strategy to solve this one too. I know that 7 times 10 equals 70, and I'm going to use 7 times 2. The 10 and the 2 equal the 12 that I need. 7 times 2 equals 14. Well, if I put that back together, I kept my 7 the same. 7 times 12 equals 84. He's going to buy 84 bagels at the bagel shop. But that's not what the question asks me. The question asks me how many bagels he buys at the supermarket. So I can either figure out that 7 is half of 14, because 14 minus 7 equals 7. So I'll know that he has 84. Or I can use Mrs. Q's strategy where I know that we need 168 bagels. That didn't change. I pick up 84 bagels at the bagel shop. So if I subtract my 84 from my 168, 8 minus 4 equals 8. 16 minus 8 equals, 4. 16 minus 8 equals 8. He needs to buy 84 bagels at the supermarket.